Hello YouTubers. This video is going to be about Nephilimfree, who is quite clearly totally and utterly batshit crazy. And I just thought I'd have a look at one of his videos and see if I could debunk basically what he's saying. Bear in mind I'm not a scientist, so I'm just going to do it ad hoc.
How does evolution theory impart any knowledge to us about genetic repair mechanisms? It doesn't. Evolution theory provides no knowledge to man about how anything biological functions. None. Evolution theory has provided zero knowledge to mankind. None. It stands in the way of science. It clogs up science. It's a huge, massive monetary hole where science projects are funded for the purpose of trying to prove the relationships between the various kinds of life, and that man was not created by God.
Well, okay, for a start, I don't know how evolution explains the repair mechanism in DNA, but it does go on to say that evolution has provided no advance to science whatsoever, ever, in any way. Well, that's funny, because 5 minutes of trawling on Google and looking through a couple of articles, I found this. Okay, well, I've got an article up here from Berkeley, so I'm assuming it's going to be fairly reliable, and it's to do with medical science. And I'm just going to read off a little section here, and it says, like all biological systems, both disease-causing organisms and their victims evolve. Understanding evolution can make a big difference in how we treat disease. The evolution of disease-causing organisms may outpace our ability to invent new treatments, but studying the evolution of drug resistance can help us slow it. Learning about the evolutionary origins of disease may provide clues about how to treat them, and considering the basic processes of evolution can help us understand the roots of genetic diseases. So, Neff, no advance to science whatsoever. None at all. Nothing. Nada. Okay, next.
Now here, evolutionists make astonishing admissions when they discuss genetics. Consider this. Here, this says DNA repair. Let me magnify this so you can see it better. Okay, this is a science paper article, rather. Paper discussing DNA repair. Because DNA is the repository of genetic information in the living cell. Genetic information. Funny thing is molecular bumping and binding. That is the processes of material causes. Material quantities such as molecules have no potential to create information. Zero. Information comes only from mind. Information cannot arise because of material quantities. There's nothing in nature that allows for nature to produce information. Information is an abstract. It is a construct of mind. All sources of information are mind. If you trace back any information, you will find that it comes from mind. Always. It is not possible for the material world to produce information.
Is that right, Neff? Well, if you think that's right, take a look at this. Okay, this article's from Science Daily, and the title is Physics Discover Inorganic Dust with Lifelike Qualities. I'm just going to read a little excerpt from this. An international team has discovered that under the right conditions, particles of inorganic dust can become organised into helical structures. These structures can then interact with each other in ways that are usually associated with organic compounds and life itself. Helical structures. That sounds remarkably like DNA. I know it's not the same, but does that not give you a bit of an idea that information, which, to be perfectly honest, I mean, it's not information in the sense of the word that you're trying to say it is, but these things can form naturally.
Okay, this part is science. See, this part here is faith. See what I mean? This is science. This is faith. It's anti-science. It's not science. It's not supported by science. Evolution doesn't happen. There is no mechanism for it. Genetics is not a mechanism. Random mutation is no mechanism for evolution.
Well, I'm sorry to inform you, Neff, but yes, random mutation is a mechanism for evolution. And I don't even need any articles to tell you that, because it's just a fact.
And natural selection can't select for single mutations, which is what evolutionists would have you believe. Natural selection is only the process observation that organisms suited to their environment survive. That's all it is. But natural selection can't select for individual random mutations. It selects entire organisms, entire mutants, regardless of what mutations they have or do not.
Well, you just talked utter bollocks. And you seem to have, from what I heard, you seem to have this impression that natural selection should have some sort of intelligence behind it. And that's just crap. All natural selection says is that any mutation that is advantageous to an organism within a population will generally mean that that organism will generally get to procreate more, or because it's got an advantage. And so therefore that tends to prevail. And all this other bollocks that you're talking, I've got no fucking idea, to be perfectly honest. And you're just an idiot.
But it is a conundrum for evolutionists. They cannot understand how man still exists when we know the rate at which random damaging mutations accrue. Now consider this. If evolution were true, DNA repair mechanism would not exist. The existence of DNA repair mechanisms in the cell contradicts evolution theory. Had evolution been true, evolution would have incorporated it, and if random mutation were the mechanism for evolution, then evolution would never have produced a genetic repair mechanism. It would have instead done the opposite. It would have incorporated as much random mutation into the genome, early genomes of the early life forms on the Earth as it could possibly get, if mutation were a mechanism for evolution. So you see, evolution theory contradicts itself, and therefore it's not true.
So talking about contradicting yourself, so basically we should be extinct because the rate of mutation is far too high. But also, if evolution were true, there would be no repair mechanism because it'd want to have as many mutations as is possible. Cheers for that. You've given me the answer to the question in the first place. The repair mechanism, if you bother to read the article, says that fewer than 1 in 1,000 mutations are permanent. And I'm assuming that's due to the repair mechanism. So those few mutations that actually are permanent could be good or they could be bad. But does that not kind of contradict your own argument?
So evolutionists believe that somehow the DNA repair mechanism is capable of knowing what genetic mutation will ultimately result in a structural design change in the organism that will be beneficial in the future.
No, they don't.
And which one would be a negative to the structural design of the organism in the future. To believe that random mutation acted upon by natural selection as a mechanism for evolutionary change. But that's what evolutionists have to believe.
Again, no, they don't.
Now, how is it possible that molecules can know in advance what mutation will ultimately result in a benefit to the structural design of the organism so that fish can evolve into amphibian tetrapods and climb out of the sea over time and walk on land?
Okay, well, it's just become quite clear that you are just bullshitting. You're a liar. And you're a bad liar to boot. The simple fact is that molecules don't know in advance what's going to be beneficial and what's not. Mutations are random. And if it's a good mutation, then, as I said before, it's an advantage. If it's a bad mutation, it's quite likely that that organism will die off. So I'm actually bored of you now, because if I watch any more of your videos, I think I might just throw myself out the window. Okay, that's it for this video. If you liked it, please vote it up and subscribe to my channel. And thank you very much.